So Hare Krishna once again to everyone. So we'll just speak for a few minutes on the significance of having gatherings, programs like this, and especially chanting the names of God. There is a story where there was once a boy. He was in the beach and he was sitting or lying, reclining against a reclining chair, and he was just very still and he was looking out at the beach and the sun was rising. And there was an older man, not very old, maybe 40s, 50, and he was just seated right beside him, just a little further away on another reclining chair. And he was observing this boy. It was a Monday morning. Hare Krishna Bhakti. It was a Monday morning. And he was observing him that it's Monday morning. He should either be at school or he should be at work. He was working age. So he was a bit puzzled. Why is this person in the beach on a Monday morning without doing anything? So immediately, as human beings always do, he started to judge him. Right? When we meet someone, we ask them, what are you? We ask them, how are you? And next question is, what are you doing? And then they will tell us, they work in this company, this bank, that bank. And then in about 30 seconds, we'll size them up. And then our demeanor towards them and what we're going to speak to them will all come based on our sizing up. So this person did not even speak, but he had already sized him up, right? Monday morning, sunrise, young guy, lazy. Not going to work, must have taken MC, and now sitting on the beach. And then he continued observing him, and the young guy started taking out a book, and he started to read. So this really irked the older man. For some reason, this person who had not spoken to him was actually agitating him, right? Because this person had worked very hard all his life, and he had built his family, his home, his car, his reputation, his retirement plan, everything he had. And then this young guy started ordering a drink. And this person couldn't take it anymore, right? Monday morning, not going to work, reading a book, not being productive, and now you want to relax even more. So the man went straight to him and said that, you're really wasting your time, right? You should be at work, you are young blood, you have a lot of energy, and you should actually be working very hard. Look at me. I worked hard all my life, and now I can relax. So then the boy asked, why did you work hard? And then he said that, so that I can maintain my family. Then he asked, why do you want to maintain your family? Because my wife has to be happy, the children have to go to school. Then he said, why do they have to do all that? So that they can become successful. Then he said, why do they have to become successful? So that then I don't have to maintain them. Then I can do what I want. So he said, then what do you want to do? He said that just like this, on the beach, I'm here on a Monday morning, everyone is working, I am sitting here looking at the sunset. And then the boy looked at him and said, isn't that what I'm doing? You had to go through so much of trouble to arrive at a space that I'm already at. So the story defines a program like this. This program is the boy or us sitting down on a beach, on a reclining chair, focusing on what actually matters. No matter who we are or what we do, there's always a corner in our life where we truly know what really matters. But in between, we get stuck with many things that come to us. In scripture, this is known as bhayam dvitiya biniveshatasya ishad apetasya aparyayo asmritihi. Meaning to say that when a living entity forgets, asmritihi means forgetfulness. When a living entity forgets what is important, then what creeps into our life is bhaya, Bhayam dvitiya biniveshatasya ishat apetasya apaviryayo asmritihi. Asmritihi, forgetfulness. Once we forget what is important, then we become very fearful of maintaining things. What will people say? What will happen to me? But we forget what really matters. And it is also mentioned, when we forget what is important, what becomes important is what we can see. What we see in front of our eyes is what we have learned in school, in all our education, and even those who have children, you will also teach them that. What you can see is very important. And what is that? Getting to a good school, you can see the good school. The school is cement, they have built it, but we attach something to it. Like in Singapore, I'm born and bred in Singapore, right? So when I was young, if you had a house, it was good. If you went to school, it was good. And then when I started getting into secondary school, this thing about, private apartments, condominiums, right? It started exploding. It was always there, but people were losing their head to get into it. But if you look at a HDB and a condominium, frankly speaking, they look about the same. But because we have attached a name to it, condominium, a designation to it, we lose our mind if we don't live there. So it is a name. So what happens is we are attached to designations. And out of that, we become fearful if we don't get these things. So there are 9 types of fear. The 9 types of fear, our scripture tells us, Bhoge roga bhayam, kule chuti bhayam. Bhoge roga bhayam means that in enjoyment, there is fear of disease. If we want to enjoy, let's say you want to take an ice cream, take some ice cream. You can have 1 scoop. If you really like, you can have 2 scoops. If you really like it, you can have 3 scoops. And if you're sold on the ice cream, you can have a tub. But if I were to ask you, can you have 2 tubs of ice cream at one go? You cannot. So, in the want of enjoyment, there is always fear of disease. You get a cold. If we enjoy ourselves too much, if we always sit down and we are always lying down, we want to enjoy, then what happens is the body becomes subject to some form of disease. So this body, we want to enjoy. Something in us is always looking out for happiness. But this body is very limited. We cannot. If someone wants to get married, they can get married to one person. Everyone's smiling suddenly. If you want to expand your enjoyment, you can get married to 2 persons. If you want to expand, you can get married to 3. But I think beyond even 1 or 2, it becomes very, very troublesome, very difficult. It's not only for the men, it's vice versa. Now, there's no distinction. So, this body is actually not meant for enjoyment. So, bhoge roga bhayam, kule chuti bhayam. Kule chuti bhayam means when we are attached to the background that we come from. Let's say we come from a very good family. Then we are afraid that we will lose the backing of that family. There's fear in that. Nowadays, our family is actually not our mother, father, it's actually our colleagues, the company that we come from. We have great faith that because I come from a very good company, this reputation is going to protect me. 20 years ago, 30 years ago, I would believe you or you would believe me. Now, all our positions, no matter how high up we sit in a building in Singapore, can slide in a matter of seconds. Either we are ejected from the seat or we are ejected from the country. So being attached to that, we are also very fearful. Bhoge roga bhayam, kule chuti bhayam, vitte nirpalat bhayam. Vitte nirpalat bhayam means we are afraid. There are shillings in the bank. We all have bank balance, right? Every month when the salary comes in, we open and we check, is the salary in? right? Has my bank balance increased? But then there is fear. The moment the salary comes, what do? Transfer, 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 pay, 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 right? Then there is also fear of taxation, of so many things that we have in wealth. Kule chuti bhayam vitte nirpalat bhayam mane dainya bhayam bale ripu bhayam rupe jaraya bhayam. Mane dainya bhayam means we are afraid. We have prestige. We are this, we are that. And we are afraid someone may come and vilify that prestige. We are also afraid that we should not lose our prestige. And that is why Facebook, Twitter, they don't call it Twitter anymore, right? They call it something else. X. And then you have so many platforms simply to maintain our prestige. What happens behind the reels, people don't really know. But because we are fearful, there is a facade that we build using social media. Mani dainya balam bhale ripu bhayam. Strength. If we are strong, then we are afraid of someone who will be even stronger than us. This is always there. If we can flex, saying that, I am a managing director, but there will always be someone who's bigger than us. There will always be someone who is richer than us. And very important, rupe jaraya bhayam. When you go into shopping centers in Singapore, what is the first floor? What do they have on the first floor? Anyone can tell me?
Beauty, cosmetics.
Very nice. Any mall that you go, right? As I was growing up, it was only for the ladies. Now, 1/4 started for the men. Because of rupe jaraya bhayam. We are very afraid that we will have a pimple in our face. It is a fear. And the whole floor is built to manipulate that fear. Please continue going to shopping centers, get your makeup, right? The Prabhus can get your cream or whatever. I'm not saying it is wrong. But because we are fearful and because our modern education has taught us that we cannot have a paunch. It is a crime, right? You rather murder someone than have a paunch. You must be size 0. You must have a 6-pack, right? You cannot have any acne. But this goes against the grain of what this body is all about. This body will always deteriorate. Bhautikanam cha bhavanam shakti hrasham chatat kritam. This body has a certain amount of energy, and energy will always deteriorate. It is the nature of the body. But something that is inside this body is calling out that I am actually beautiful and I want to maintain that. I actually have good qualities and I want people to see me as being very good. Rupe jaraya bhayam shastre vadi bhayam gune kalabhayam kaye kritantad bhayam. Last 3. Shastre vadi bhayam. Those who know scripture, now I'm chanting, right? You'll be seeing, oh, he really knows, some verses. If anyone from this crowd were to stand up, I quoted, I think, 3 verses now. Anyone were to stand up and quote 4 verses, I'll be afraid of the person. He knows more than me, right? His knowledge is greater than mine. Even in knowledge, we become fearful. What do we tell our children? You came in second in class? Not up to the mark, right? Your level of knowledge is not as good as the person who came in first. So what we are teaching the child is not to go to the school to get knowledge to uplift themselves. What we are saying is, you get knowledge, but you must be happy in his failure. You see the point? When we tell a child that you must do better than your peer, all we are saying is, you become happy when he fails. So we are setting up our children for success in another person's failure. So technically speaking, we are setting them up for failure in life. So this is the fear of knowledge. We want to gather, but the fear is increasing. This is Shastre Vadibhayam Gune Kalabhayam, qualities. We always want to be seen as moralistic, as very ideal in our behavior. That we want to go with the flow. Now we have so many green initiatives, right? We want to protect the earth, we want diversity, we want to be equal. Whether we really want to do it or not, but we want to be there with the crowd, being seen as someone who's good. But when we are vilified, then we become very afraid. Out of fear, at least we participate in these things. And then the last fear, which is the root, is that we are fearful that we will lose this body. Every fear has its root in this, that we will lose this body. Every fear, whether it's knowledge, whether it's the pimple on the face, whatever we spoke about, the root is there that we will lose this. But you will find that one day this body is actually going to go. Now itself you can see, when we were 10 years old, we could just jump around. This is 18th floor. We could try climbing 18 floors. We'd be tired, but we would be able to do it. Try now and see how you feel. If the lift had not worked, right, I think the 10th floor I would have called Seema Mataji and told her, maybe next week. Not today. So the body is deteriorating at every moment. But something in us is telling us that we must keep moving. We must keep moving. We want to be happy. What exactly is that? These programs are crafted in such a way that we put the brakes to everything. Whatever we are doing, whatever we are running after, to start thinking collectively who we really are. And our scriptures tell us very simply that we are not this body and we are this soul. Many of us understand this theoretically. But how many of us understand it practically? And we're actually living the life on the platform of the soul. It is like that boy in the beach. He truly knows what is factually important. And he conducts his life in such a way. This program, this chanting, this kirtan, is reminding us what exactly is important. And how do we enable us to understand who we really are? It is by the process of vibrations. In our culture that is very old, very ancient, we have always been told that if we want to truly know what is important in life and do what is important in life, then there's only one thing we must change, and that is the vibrations. But as I mentioned, we are always told that what you can see is what you must change. What you can see. But vibrations are things that we cannot see. If you came into this house and there was rubbish all over the house, you would not feel very welcome. But because Mataji and Prabhu have kept the house so clean, neat and tidy, when you came in, you felt very pleasant. The aircon is on, it's very clean, it's very nice, it's like a temple. But when we clean, we only clean what is apparent to us. But this home, or all our homes, or even the environment, the atmosphere, we are only seeing the 3 or 4 elements. This whole material universe is made up of 5 elements, right? Air, ether, water, what else is there? Earth and fire. So we see fire, we see earth, we see water. But one thing we do not see is this element called ether. Ether is more permeating than earth. Ether is more permeating than fire. Ether is more prominent than even water. Now we are seated here, you can see, fire has been combined with earth, and then you have cement. But the space here is actually made up of ether. And we cannot see it. So we clean the house. But even if a house is very clean, and we all have, good jobs, our children are all going to good schools, we're very happy materially, our mind is always troubled with something. Even when there's no trouble, the mind will think, really there's no trouble? Something must be there. And then we create our own trouble. Because the ether is actually not cleaned. This carpet, we clean it with vacuum cleaner. But the ether, what do we clean it with? We must clean it with something more subtle. Right? You need to use something more subtler to clean something that is gross. Ether is already subtle. So what do you use to clean ether? We actually use vibrations. Very simple exercise of how vibration can affect us. Now I'm going to say, please do not think about an elephant. Don't think. You are not allowed to think of an elephant. What are you thinking about? An elephant. I didn't do anything. We didn't do anything at all. It is simply vibration. And immediately what happens? You start smiling, that you start thinking of an elephant. There's no form of an elephant. In the same way, in a house, when there are vibrations like this, then what happens is, this ether becomes cleaned. But in a house, where there's only negative vibrations, just imagine a child has come home, did not do very well for exams. If you tell the child, you're useless, I taught you so much, we did so much work together, and still you're doing so badly. This is vibration. The moment the vibration hits the child, what does the child feel? The child feels useless. The child will never have an impetus to say that I am going to try again. You never hit the child, you never did anything to the child, but your vibration was not correct. With children is there, between spouse. The marriage is there for loving dealings. But when there are cracks, why do cracks appear? Because of vibration. When we are frustrated, the first persons we lash out on are people we love. You know why? Because they will not do anything back to us. Try the man walking on the street, try going up to him and shouting at him. Right? He will give you one. But because we are so familiar with people who are close to us, familiarity breeds contempt. So we feel they will not do anything to us. So our vibration with them actually changes. Familiarity breeds contempt. So when that vibration changes, then what happens is this ether catches the vibration. It catches. We may have forgotten. Let's say I have a wife and I go to her and I scream and shout at her because venting out all my frustrations. Next day I go to her and say, sorry, actually I really love you. But yesterday I was very frustrated. We think that everything is mended. We expect her to have forgotten everything because we want to forget everything. Whether I forget or whether she forgets, the ether never forgets. The ether has a memory of its own. It catches the vibration. And the more there are such vibrations in the house, when a person enters the house, there is only turmoil in the mind. And because the mind is subtle, it picks out the vibration from ether and it uses it back again. That day 2 years ago you told me something, now I'm going to use it against you. It is actually a vicious cycle. So if there's anything that we need to change, there's nothing to do with spirituality, nothing to do with religion. If you see, whatever we are speaking about here is simple common sense. And this commonsensical knowledge was given by Krishna to Arjuna 5,000 years ago. He told Arjuna, if there's one thing that you want to correct about your life, you just correct your vibration. And I'll give you 5 things to do to correct your vibration. And he says, Anudvega karam vakyam. He says, when you speak, Arjuna, do not speak in a way that agitates the mind of others. Anudvega karam. Anudvega karam means when we speak, we should not be agitating to someone. This is called austerity of speech. It is actually very important, but we have actually forgotten about this. You know, I read a book many years ago about Red Indians. Red Indians are actually seen as low-class people. But I read about their culture. So, in the Red Indian culture, when someone asks you a question, you are not supposed to reply. You are supposed to stop, think, give it a few moments before you reply. That is their culture. And that culture is seen as laid back. Nowadays, when people come to us, whether we want to hear them or not is a separate thing. I want to answer you. Right? We start building everything. This is the answer I'm going to give the person. So when our loved one comes in front of us, do we actually hear them? Or do we just are planning for a reply? So Anudvega karam vakyam. Pause and think whether you want to agitate the person. Then Krishna gives him 3 gates, checkpoints. He says, Satyam, what you are speaking, is it true? Or is it blasphemy? Is it true? Then he said, then wait. Because Arjuna must have thought, if it's true means I can speak. He says, no. Satyam, is it going to be priya? Priya means, is it going to be loving? You know, when we know the truth, right, we want to say it however we want to say it. I know the truth. I will blast you with the truth because I know the truth. But Krishna tells Arjuna, no. Is it going to be priya? Do you at that moment have the dexterity in your heart, that resilience in your heart to speak the truth in a loving way? If it is going to be, wait. There is a 3rd gate. Satyam priya hitam chayat. Hitam means, is it going to be beneficial to the person? So Krishna is simply saying, Arjuna, do not give unsolicited advice. Many of us like to do that, especially with our children or with our spouse, you know. They would not need anything. They just want to be heard. But immediately all the advice, will come. So, hitam chayat, is it going to be beneficial? If it's the truth, if it's loving, if it is beneficial, then Arjuna, then you speak. If not, what do? Swadhyaya bhyasanam chaiva. Keep quiet and chant the verses I'm speaking to you now. The whole Bhagavad Gita is 700 verses. And now we are chanting Krishna's names. He says, just keep quiet and chant the holy names. So meaning to say, 90% of our life, we should remain silent. Because 90% of the time, we don't know the truth. Even if we know it, we do not have the resilience to say it lovingly. And even if we want to say it lovingly, the person doesn't want to hear us. So 90%, we should just preserve our energy. In a quarrel, I learned this from my spiritual master. He told me, if you want to win in a quarrel, then be silent. He said, not many people know this secret. Silence is the loudest sound in a quarrel. Silence is the loudest sound in a quarrel. So rather than quarreling, rather than arguing, we should save our energy to come and chant. Because this entire life that we have a limited set of energy. How do we want to expend this energy is totally up to us. We have to really think about these things because we don't have time. And that is why these programs are there. Now we are seated here, we are already very fearful. Why? Why are we fearful? Because it's Sunday night. Tomorrow is Monday. You're in Singapore. What else do you do on a Sunday night? You have to be fearful. Because you're going to work. And then when Friday comes, very happy. Right? So our life is simply between Friday evening to Sunday afternoon. Right? Thereabouts. And then after that we go into survival mode. Animals are meant to survive. Humans are meant to live. So after this program, when you walk out of that door, just have one question in mind. Do I want to live or do I want to survive? Do I need so many things in my possession to keep myself happy? Or do I already have whatever I need? And can I be happy with whatever I have? This is the knowledge that we need. We are cramping ourselves with so many types of knowledge. But Krishna is making it emphatic in Bhagavad Gita that this is the knowledge that we need. You know, there's one very short story that I'll say. There was a boatman, and he was taking people across the river using the boat in his village. And there was a boy who had left the village, and he had gone to the United States of America that we all want to go to, and we all want to become citizens. Not sure whether now, but we all have that desire somehow. You know, Singapore, whenever people come to Singapore over the years, they always tell me one thing: Singapore is a stepping stone for me to eventually get into the US, right? So we all want to get somewhere. So he went to the US and he was returning. And the boatman was there. He said, "Oh, you've returned after so many years. You know, you used to be such a small boy. Let me take you to your home. Let's cross the river." So as he was crossing, you know, when we go back to our hometown and we feel that, you know, people are not as developed as us, so we try to, you know, subtly show them, you know, how advanced I've become. So the man started to speak to the boatman, and he said that, you know, I'm in research and I study about metaphysics. You know, do you know this word called metaphysics? Then he said, "No, I don't know. I only know this, you know, rowing of boat. I have my small family." And he said, you know, 1/3 of your life is wasted because you don't know what metaphysics is. So then it started, you know, the cloud started to rumble a little. So he said, "Do you know how the cloud works? Do you know how water is gathered? Do you know how evaporation takes place?" And he said, "No, why do I need to know all this? I'm a simple boatman." He said, 2/3 of your life is wasted. And then the clouds started to rumble even more. The thunder started to come, right? And then the boat started to, almost going to capsize, right? It was topsy-turvy. And then everyone on the boat started to jump. Why? Because it was going to capsize, and they all jumped to swim to the shore. And the boatman looked right at the advanced person returning from the United States of America and asked him, "You knew so many things. Do you know how to swim?" He said, "No." And he said, "For everything that you just told me, I wasted 2/3 of my life. Your whole life is wasted because you're going to die." So he knew everything, but he did not know the essential knowledge of how to live. He only knew how to survive. I'll conclude with one last point. When we want to survive, you will find you will always need someone to keep you happy. You will always find this. You can go home and think about this. If you're always in survival mode, you will need someone else to keep you happy. Right? Either it's your boss, either it's your bank balance, either it's your credit card, either it's your loan. Whatever it is, you need something or someone to keep you happy. When we're in survival mode, we actually don't like to spend time with ourselves. We need someone, and that's why we're always on the phone. Right? The phone is very important, integral part of our life, because we want it to satisfy us, because we're in survival mode. But the moment we start living, you will actually find sitting down with nothing and no one around is a very pleasurable experience. I don't know whether if you all have parents, you all have grandparents, you would have observed that they can sit still in one place. They will just sit on their armchair, they will just look out, they'll be completely happy. What will we think? Wasting time. Right? At least should be reading something, some WhatsApp message, right? Some message must be there. Take a book, read. This is all modern inventions. It is all right to just sit down. It is really all right. This program, you can forget about everything that I said. But for the last 40 minutes, what have you been doing?
Sit down.
That's it. You are seated, and I did not see anyone on their phone. That is the success of this program. There's nothing else to it. And that is why we want to increase programs and chanting. And Seema Mataji was very excited to have all the devotees over to have this chanting, because she had gotten a glimpse that it's okay to sit down. Right? She was quite peaceful. And that is why we go all over conducting programs like this. It is very simple. Now we're going to come to the end of the program. We chanted, we spoke a little, we told you all to sit down. Now I will chant again. You continue sitting down. After that, the plate will come right to your seat. Very simple. You don't have to pay. You're not charging, right? Okay. No, there's no cover charge. Sunday night, right? You must be in a restaurant. And in Singapore, any restaurant you go, $100 easily will come out. But now there's no payment. Everything is free. And this is the culture of vibration. We give, we don't take. So thank you very much for very patiently hearing. Hare Krishna. Are there any questions, any comments anyone has? Yes, please.
What are the other ways to improve vibration? First was voice, speak.
Okay, first one is do not speak agitatingly. Anudvega karam vakyam. Satyam. Satyam means speak truth. Priya means speak it lovingly. Hitam chayat. Hitam is beneficial. If you cannot keep quiet, and swadhyaya abhyasanam. Swadhyaya means chanting Bhagavad Gita, Bhagavatam, Hare Krishna Mahamantra, right? So we do that. So this 4 ways is known as Vanmayam Tapa Uchyate, the austerity of speech. That's how we control it. I hope that's useful. Hare Krishna. Yes, Mataji.
Hare Krishna. Thank you so much, Prabhu. Just wanted to understand so many points you speak. Just spoke about the referencing the Vedic scriptures, right? What makes us to forget it on the instance we need to remember it most?
Sorry, can you repeat that
So,
again?
for example, we should speak, like you said, we should be satyam, priyam, beneficial. But in our day-to-day life, what makes us to forget it? If we, most of the
Yes.
points you mentioned, when we hear it, we can relate it. Right? It is truth. Yes, we should behave this way. But what is it which makes us forget it on the time when we should?
Yes, very practical question. Very easy for me to say, right? Just imagine, Bhakti Prabhu is my very good friend, right? He always follows me for programs. And I speak to him very nicely. And I tell you all these things theoretically. Speak lovingly. Don't give unsolicited advice. You go down the car park, I'm screaming at him. How would you feel? That's a question, right? It's very easy to say, right? Wearing white, speaker, you're always thinking, wow, amazing. It's very difficult to follow. But how do we follow it? Nirinam santi sahasrashaha apashyatam atmatattvam griheshu grihamedinam. Nirinam santi sahasrashaha means, what are we putting inside? What you consume is what is going to come out. We must remember this thing. What we consume is what will come out of us. Why we forget to restrain our speech is because what we are consuming is not correct. If you are going for, say now dinner, they are going to serve you with very sattvic prasadam, very nice prasadam. But when you go home, you feel still hungry, right? Let me take some potato chips. Still hungry, let me take some pizza, In Singapore, sambal, that chili is very famous. Not spicy enough, I'll also take that. With a bit of rice. What happens the next morning? I don't even want to describe it. Right? It's not very palatable. And what you call is, my stomach is upset, it's having some diarrhea. And you take an MC. But you must understand one thing. Modern education only teaches us to take care of the stomach. Because you can see, or you have seen it. Education has, in the science textbook, the gullet is there, the esophagus, the stomach, large intestine, small intestine. You have seen it. But has any science textbook shown you the mind? No. But you have a mind. But because, as I said, whatever is apparent, we look after it. Because we cannot see the mind, what do? We put the fries, we put the pizza, we put the chili. And what are all those? Gossip, criticism, bazaar talk, frivolous talk. We scroll Facebook, right? How many messages are there? You take one WhatsApp message, you click on the link, it goes to some other link, it brings you to this link, that link. By the time you're in some other platform, so much of content is being downloaded and we carelessly consume it. When we're going to eat something, do we read the ingredients? Now we are habituated to read. If you take the drink in the supermarket, they say, right, A, B, C, D. If it's A, we take it. We stop to read the ingredients. Do we stop before we consume through our mind? We don't. And because there is a bombardment of so much of irrelevant content, as Mataji rightfully pointed out, we forget what is coming out of our mouth. That bombardment bewilders us. That bombardment makes us forget what needs to be said, who is standing in front of us, what is the relationship we have with them. Everything is forgotten because of the constant bombardment of content. And that is why we mentioned that it is all right to sit without any bombardment. The more you can sit and chant without any material vibrations, any material bombardment, then Mataji, your restraint of the speech will automatically become strengthened. So it's consumption compared to output. I hope that's all right. Hare Krishna. Anyone else had anything?